All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashum, Yahweh Shai, Bahashum Rakakodash. I want to give double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and grace and peace to you elect around the four winds, believing and pushing the truth in all sincerity. May the blessing of election be upon your houses. This is your fellow servant, Rokayer from the GMS Orlando camp, coming at you with another impromptu lesson. And the title of tonight's lesson, is going to be Trump is driving Babylon to a point of no return. All right, and the inspiration for this lesson comes from this video done by Tone Talks, and it's entitled Trump's Economic Policies Are to Get America to Spend What Families Don't Have. All right, and really, I want to, do a live stream and sit down and get into a couple of points that this guy made during this video. But we're just going to touch on, a few, Lord, when this is edifying unto you elect. Because the point that we find ourselves in now, in Babylon the Great, is the fact that America was built and thrived on consumerism. But now we're at a point where people don't have the money to consume, due to joblessness and inflation. So now we're at the point where Trump is trying to engineer different policies to make it seem as if the economy is thriving and to make it seem as if these average American households have the money that they don't have. Essentially, they're following the same blueprint that their Roman counterparts followed back during the time of the Colosseum. When they put all that bread and circus out to distract people from the failing economy that was taking place during Rome. The same thing is happening now. That's why the scriptures say in the book of Ecclesiastes that there's nothing new under the sun. All right, the same thing is reoccurring just on a different stage and a different environment, a different scenario, as it were. All right, but we're at the point now where Babylon is trying to mask its destruction. It's trying to mask its collapse through entertainment, through the onset of different policies, which are ultimately driving the economy further and further, all right, into a point of no return. Because these different policies that Trump is enacting, to make it seem as if these middle-class Americans have a way out, of this economic disparity. Excuse me. It's like these different policies that he's enacting are just really driving the wedge, the wealth gap further and further, and really isolating the wealth within the elite, and stripping all of the wealth, or the little wealth, the little wealth that middle-class Americans do have, away completely. He's stripping it away completely. We're at that point in prophecy where, the scriptures say here in the book of Ecclesiastes 12, and I'm going to start at verse 1. It says, "Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. While the sun, the light, or the moon, or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain. And the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because they are few. And those that look out of the windows be darkened." All right, and those that look out of the windows going into your different economic forecasters, your financial advisors, they're trembling. All right, their eyes are darkened, meaning that they can't see any more prosperity for this land, Babylon the Great. They can't see a prospering future for Babylon because Babylon didn't have a long-term prosperity plan to begin with. To begin with, Babylon didn't have a long-term plan. That's not in the makeup of Esau Edom to have a long-term mindset. We've seen that with his forefather Esau. He had a very short-sighted mindset. He was focused on the there and now instead of the generations after him, which is why through the Spirit we received the blessing through our forefather Jacob, all right, who through the Spirit of the Lord had the foresight and the spirit of longevity. And now everything is starting to come to a head. But it says, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the keepers of the house are trembling. There's a reason why they're enacting these different policies so speedily. There's a reason why they're trying to bring peace and safety to a situation that is completely out of control. It's because they see it and they're trembling, which is why, pursuant to Revelation 12:12, the devil's going to come down with great wrath. All right. And also, like it says in 1 Thessalonians, when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction shall come upon them. All right. They're trying to engineer a false peace, into a situation that's already out of control. But we know that just as sure as they're engineering this so-called peace, the Lord is right around the corner, man. But I wanted to get this as well because he also mentioned something that we're not going to get into the video. It's too far deep into the video. It's like 25 minutes into the video. He also mentioned stagflation, which we're at the point of stagflation now here in Babylon. Said stagflation from the AI overview is a challenging economic state combining stagnant growth, high unemployment, and rising inflation, high prices. A rare mix where typically strong growth accompanies inflation and slowdowns reduce prices. All right, and we're at that point now, to where there's a stagnant growth within the American economy. Also, while you have a high unemployment rate due to, these different companies shutting down, the retail apocalypse. You just had about 300 to, it was either 300 or 300,000 Amazon workers laid off. All right. During the pandemic, you had a lot of workers laid off as well that still have yet to return to work. During this recent time, you had a lot of flight attendants, these federal jobs shut down, which put a lot of people out of employment as well, which they haven't been able to bounce back from. So that's steadily rising. Also, while the prices are steadily rising, and that is an unhealthy mix. You can't have prices that steadily rise while the people in your society don't have the money to compensate for that cost of living raise. It just doesn't make sense. That mix, it's like oil and water. But yet Esau is doing this again, just like he did in the Roman Empire. It's the same thing. Esau truly is the same old dummy. The same dummy. He just can't get right. He can't get right, man. But check this out.
This man can't do nothing for you with his chaotic mind. Can we get to it today? I just want everybody to line everything up, and I wanted to do this show to do 1, 2, 3, 4 different policies or so, and to explain how you can't just look at the words coming out of somebody's mouth. You got to look at their history politically. You got to look at how they got into office. Trump got into office by small government, cutting resources to the middle class, making sure that your family starves, in my view. And all of a sudden, we're going to talk about him not wanting all the houses to be for rent. He going to fix it. If you believe that Donald Trump's going to fix it, I don't know if you deserve to be the support being for a family. In my view, as a middle class person with little to no wealth, if you believe that the far right, during a time of wealth calcification, where the wealth is being calcified amongst the rich, is going to save you, given the history of this country, I need to go on and sell you some magic beans. So today, Trump in Davos, homes are built for people, not for corporations. America will not become a nation of renters. It's being paraded around.
And another thing to pay attention to as well is these Davos meetings that are taking place. I also want to get into a lesson going into one of the meetings that they had going into AI being built for the long term. Which the prophets told you first. But that's another lesson for another time, Lord willing. But these WEF meetings are contained with a lot of information that the devil tries to sweep over people's heads because, you know, the majority of the American populace isn't paying attention to things like this. You know, that's why the scriptures say here in 2nd Ezra 16, it says, "Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon the earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion." You know, so while people think that victuals are so good cheap, you know, you have evils that are growing right in the background, you know, that are being swiped right over the people's heads. You know, it's happening in their own backyard, yet people are still unable to see, you know, that the devil's getting ready to strip their victuals violently. You know, and this is the definition of victuals from the etymology online. It says food and drink, a stock of food and drink for warfare or travel. I'm going to skip down. It says provisions, a livelihood. All right. And right now, people's livelihood seems to be so good cheap, especially with these different policies that Trump is enacting, you know, to make it seem as if the average American has the money that they don't have by increasing their mortgage terms, you know, by increasing or by allowing them to pull out of the 401ks to put down on houses. You know, Trump is giving the illusion of wealth, all the while their victuals are being stripped away violently right behind the scenes. Evils are growing. And this is a prime example of that very same precept. Once again, it says, "Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon the earth that they shall think themselves to be in a good case. And even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy." You know, we're in this very same time where victuals seem to be cheap, all the while the evils are being stirred up right behind the eyes of the people. And people aren't paying attention to meetings like, you know, these WEF meetings, Davos. They're not paying attention to things like this because it's too boring. You know, and granted, it's a pain in the ass to listen to Esau, the devil, speak. But when you listen to the devil speak, oftentimes he trips up his own self. He tells on himself. You know, just like he's told on himself in times past. And yet again, he's telling on himself, man.
Now that Trump said this, right? Where is the journalism? Where is the journalism? Well, we know when we look at this thing that the media is now owned by billionaires, so we're not getting the deep dive journalism. Billionaires tied into Trump from Fox and Murdoch family, CBS News and the Ellisons, Zuckerberg and Facebook and Instagram.
And this is also an important fact to understand coming into these war times. All right, that the media is controlled by the elite. All right, so the agenda that's getting ready to ensue from this point forward is the agenda of the elite, which we understand, you know, that agenda is going to ultimately fail. All right, thus saith the Lord, thus saith prophecy. All right, but Trump isn't going against the plans of the elites. You know, they're trying to play that good cop, bad cop situation where Trump acts like he's for the people, you know, he's for the interests of the people. You know, he's going against these billionaires. And that's not what he's doing. He's not going against the people that write his check. He's not going against the elites that control the vast majority of the resources. That's just not what's happening. And that's not what's going to happen. You know, but going into war times, propaganda and media are some of the things that, you know, you have to be able to control, you know, in order to justify, you know, your stance in the war. And we see, you know, that the elites own the majority of the media companies. They own the majority of the media companies, meaning that they own the majority of the propaganda that's being put out here in these latter days, especially when it is going to come to the demonization of the Lord's saints, man. Because the word is entered into the gates of these nobles, and now they're trembling. They are trembling. These niggas are, man, these niggas, they trembling. They're getting desperate. They're getting sloppy. Just like their Roman predecessors, man.
Bezos and the Washington Post, Elon Musk and Twitter, we can't get any journalism, so I'm here to deliver it. Immediately, when you look at these policies, you need to ask yourself, why did this man say this? Should I believe this man? And if I don't believe this man, what should I say to people around me to make it clear? Can we get to it today? So, Tone, what are you talking about? What are you saying to me? Are you saying that Trump is misrepresenting things? Absolutely. And I would go a step further that he might be altogether lying if you lay it out. Let's talk about it.
Ownership has always been a symbol of health and vigor of American society, but that goal fell out of reach for millions and millions of people in the Biden era because interest rates went up so high. Today, I'm taking action to bring back this bedrock of the American dream. In recent years, Wall Street giants and institutional investment firms, many of you are here, many of you are good friends of mine, many of you are supporters. Sorry to do this to you, I'm so sorry. But you've driven up housing prices by purchasing hundreds of thousands of single-family homes, and it's been a great investment for them. Often as much as 10% of houses on the market. You know, the crazy thing is a person can't get depreciation on a house, but when a corporation buys it, they get depreciation. Okay, that's something we're going to have to think about, too. I don't know if too many people think about that. You buy a corporation, they buy 500 houses. They buy hundreds of thousands. They buy 500 houses. They can take depreciation. A person sweats and works and buys one house, they can't. But homes are built for people, not for corporations, and America will not become a nation of renters. We're not going to do that. That's why I have signed an executive order banning large institutional investors from buying single-family homes. It's just not fair to the...
On his face, this sounds like something for the middle class. Until you dig a little deeper and ask the question, why wasn't the first question to everyone once he said this, who is this man that's saying this to me and Donald Trump? What does he stand for? Let's go back. So why Blackstone is buying rental homes in the U.S. Blackstone is an American alternative asset manager with significant interest in rental housing. In recent years, the company spent billions acquiring brands such as Tricon Residential, America Campus Communities, and Air Communities. Who is Blackstone? Does Donald Trump's presidency provided significant benefits to the Blackstone Group? So the man that provided significant benefits to the group, among other groups that are buying up all the homes, is now going to tell us follow me, that he's against the acquisition of homes by the Blackstone Group.
Which is complete madness. And, you know, it's really a short form of order of chaos, to where he engineered, you know, he helped build, you know, this very same company that he's now going against and demonizing, you know, which, you know, it's all, you know, we understand the wiles of the devil, man. You know, we understand that this devil double speaks. You know, he likes to do things to make himself, to prop himself up as the hero, you know, all the while he's the villain. You know, and this is all coming to a hedge now, man. You know, Trump is truly driving America, Babylon the Great, into a point of no return. And it's beautiful. You know, this is prophetic. You know, we're in the age of prophecy, you know, coming forth. And the words that were spoken aforetime speaking louder, you know, and louder and ringing the ears of the people in the earth, you know, especially the elect. You know, it's ringing a certain bell within the spirit of the elect. And it's galvanizing, you know, Lord willing, we're that number. But it's galvanizing the elect, you know, to remember the Creator now. All right. And alongside remember the Creator, embody our Lord, Yahushua, so that we might be able to overcome and endure in these times. All right. Because the victory has already been gotten. The victory over this economic collapse, the victory over the beast in his image, over death. Okay. The victory has already been proclaimed through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. You know, we're at the point now of just living these things out, living the prophecy out, you know, carrying the testimony of Yahushai through these perilous times, which is possible. Okay, and the Lord let us know that it's possible by the very form that he took when he came to the earth, you know, as one of us. And at the end of his mission, he said, what? Be of good cheer, I have overcame the world, giving us, you know, a hope that we can do the same through his spirit. But with that being said, Lord, this is edifying that you elect. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham Rukakwadash, and double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Grace and peace to you elect around the four winds, believing and pushing this truth in all sincerity. May the blessing of election be upon your houses. Shalom. Stay up.